guys, I'm Ginny Kohli. I'm the host of the show and the founder and CEO of WedWise. Good digital marketing strategy takes a lot of data analysis and an ever-changing understanding of the digital and industry climates. What's hot today is cold tomorrow. Though social media for a business can be highly intimidating, it is now that these platforms form an integral part of a business identity. As per a recent report, 3 out of 4 people take a purchase decision after seeing something on social media. That's right. These stats bring to light the importance of having visually appealing pages, business feeds, profiles, and sort of tells you how important it is to have a social media identity now. So for today, we have Rahul Kumar from Vivaah Celebrations based out of Dubai, putting some light on the importance of social media and harnessing that power in order to take your business to the next level. Thank you so much, Rahul, for doing this with us. Welcome to Voice of Wedding, the podcast by WedWise. How are you doing?
I'm very well, Ginny. How are you?
Fantastic. I have been meaning to do this for a while with you, and finally we get the chance to talk about a very important subject and then something that's very close to both our hearts. So we're just trying to now delve a little bit into the social media aspect of businesses. I don't know anyone else but you in this business who has been using the power of social media for its business. And I think it was you were the best person to sort of invite and discuss this topic, because I believe you really understand the power of social media and how to really harness it and use it for your wedding business. So I just want to ask you and begin with talking about how smaller players in the wedding business or people who've been in the business for over the years. Wedding business is an industry where you've had people working for 20, 30 years in a similar pattern without having to change a lot. And keeping that in mind, people are extremely hesitant to try a new platform or a new way to communicate to their clients, right? So my first question to you is, why social media and what does it really do for your brand positioning?
You see, Ginny, if you would go back to the history and origins of advertising and marketing, these mediums were super expensive for small businesses to go forward and invest their monies in. When you're talking about hoardings, posters, radio commercials, TV commercials, those kind of advertising and marketing mediums were always expensive and required big monies to go in, which was only affordable by a certain level of companies and above. Now with social media marketing coming into play, it's become very affordable. The one good thing that you can do with social media marketing, of course, is that you can reach out to your target audience directly. There are so many mechanisms and so many technologies that can help a business reach out to their right target audience. And whether it's a new business or whether it's a matured business or if it's a business that's been around for the longest of times, I think social media is for everyone. It really is about how you end up using it and how you put out your content. So a beginner or a new company or a startup company would have content that introduces their brand, introduces their culture of work, and reaches out to a new set of audience. A mid-level matured business would reach out to the same audiences with different form of content. So they have their client set, but now their client set wants to see something different. So then that goes out in the form of social media marketing. And for legacy companies that have been there for a long period in time, will then speak of things like corporate social responsibility or talk about how they care for the environment, because they have the set of clients, their product base is already there, people know what they sell, but now their audience want to know what more does this company do in addition to just sell products and services. So social media is a large bandwidth of things that you can do in a very cost-effective manner.
So, but I want to ask you this very straight up, because these are the questions I get, asked quite a few times. Why does it matter? The business is coming in, most of our, for Indian weddings, nothing is ever booked online. We don't believe in booking vendors online. The ticket size is fairly huge. So, of course, social media does nothing when it comes to bookings or taking payments and stuff. So, why does it matter?
You see, if you are to measure the return on investment on social media, you may not be able to measure it directly, but there is return on investment for sure. And that's why we've been into social media right from the earlier times of our company, when social media was not that big too. We just had Facebook, Instagram had just barely made its way through the doors. Twitter was about But we always realize that social media is media on the go. It's content on the go. It's on-demand content. So your audience could be traveling in a bus, could be traveling in trains, could be on flights, could be wherever they want. And by just a click of a button, they can watch media and content whenever they want. So it is not that you have to wait for something like a television show, which is going to be aired at a certain channel at a certain time in a day. It is where you choose to watch and tune into what you want to watch. So what happens is that with social media, even if you're not able to measure the return on investment directly, the relevance and being in sight and being trendy is what is important. So out of sight is out of mind. Similarly, when it comes to social media as a company, if you're able to put your products, services, or your day-to-day activities, and I say it does not have to be hard sell, it does not have to be advertising or marketing or putting out your product with price list there. It is purely showing activity. It is showing what you do, what your relevant information or your content is on that day. If your audience are glued onto and they want to come back and watch your interesting content, they will come back and tune into your channel or so-called handle every day to look at fresh content. So what you need to do is put out interesting content in the beginning to be able to captivate your audience. And once they've subscribed or they've started following your handle, they will get to see interesting content day in, day out. So they may not be ready to buy today, but they will always remember because they have higher recall value. And when they're ready to buy that business, when they're ready to buy that service or product from you, the one thing that they would remember is the same channel or the handle that they've been seeing every day, and that is where they will end up buying, because now they don't have to flip through magazines, they don't have to flip through directories, they don't have to look at radio commercials or television commercials to be able to reach out to a service provider to be able to buy from them, because they've been seeing you every day. You are more relevant, and that's what social media does.
So Rahul, if I've got this right also, and of course we've been talking about social media's power. In your experience over the years, you've of course come across various businesses in Dubai, in India. Of course, there are veterans in this field who have done a commendable job with their offline marketing as well. What I want to understand from you is that today's day and age, what do you think business owners do wrong when it comes to brand positioning? Not only talking about from a digital angle, of course, that's a big part of it. But where do you think the newer businesses or the businesses, the mid-segment businesses, where do they go wrong when it comes to brand positioning for their particular business?
You see, one important aspect to understand with any business is that you feed the audience what they want, not something that you think may work. You see, that's exactly how restaurants work. That's exactly how hotels work. You may have certain ethics of work. You may have a certain policy in place. You may have a certain essence of a brand. The essence of brand can still remain. Your values can still remain, but you have to constantly change with time because your buyers are constantly changing. The younger generation coming in wants something different from your product and service. So what you need to do, and where brands go wrong, is that their brand essence or brand value has constantly remained the same all throughout. Their packaging, their positioning has remained the same all throughout. And what is happening is that it is becoming stale or is becoming obsolete with the new buyers. And that is something that we as a company have constantly changed every couple of years. Even through last year, we've re-strategized, repositioned ourselves. The team has been given new direction, and we have had a fresher and newer approach. Even through the challenging times like the pandemic, our content is out on Vivaah celebrations every day. And it's new content, it's fresh content, it's relevant content, it's trendy content. It's putting the message out there that we are still alive, kicking and breathing, and we are strong. And that gives so much optimism and positivity to the ones who are viewing this content, whether these are brides to be, whether these are past clients, whether these are vendors. We have taken the entire community with us, and there's so much content that is relevant to each category of my audience, and that's what's kept us going, and the feedback has been overwhelming.
Super. So, I mean, of course, you're one of the few people who have probably a dedicated digital team for their business, and hence you're able to create a lot of content around what you do. Now, this is for also our listeners who are sort of like a one-man army. They are planners, they are decorators, they sort of partner with other businesses. what is your advice to them when it comes to content creation from a wedding business point of view? They could be a planner, they could be a designer, and everyone, of course, struggles with the idea of content creation because there's only so much one can think of because, I mean, they are creative off ground, they are creative on ground. But when it comes to digital creativity, everyone sort of shakes up a little and they realize that, it's not their cup of tea and they want to hire a professional for it. But so what's your advice to those one-man army professionals who want to do something with their digital media, but just with the lack of experience in the digital space, they tend to take a back seat and not do so much. So how do you plan a content around a business, and how do you do it for your business so that gives an understanding for people?
Well, see, there's two parts to it. I will answer first how we do it for our business, and then I will also tell you how a startup should look into this whole aspect of social media marketing. Now, for us over the years, I've developed my own in-house team because I wanted the in-house team to breathe the essence of the company day in, day out, to understand my activities, what we do, the communications I have with partners, the communication I have with my clients. And what happens is that even without making much of an effort, they're able to document everything that is happening in a day in terms of my walkthroughs, my client visits, if we're going to a new property, and then there's trendy content, there's inspirations, there's new properties that we're talking about. So there's a lot of content that today we churn out on a daily basis. And this has happened now over time without having to put much stress or thought into what we're going to do next, because the activity levels are so high that you will find amazing content sitting on your table every day. There may be days where you will think what you want to eliminate out of this and what you want to put out there. So you will come to a point as a business to understand that then you require an in-house team. But that's going to be far out in the distance. It's taken me about 8 to 9 years to get to the position where I've then thought that I need to put a team together that understands what I'm doing day in, day out. But for businesses who are starting up or who are in the mid-level journey of their career, I think it's fantastic to take advantage of professional companies that are in social media marketing, that are in other form of marketing avenues, just like yourselves at WedWise. It is important to understand that there are professionals who understand what the pulse of the market is, what the audience wants to see, and then professionals like yourselves can guide these businesses on what to churn out on a daily basis or a weekly basis. So something as simple as just documenting your day can be a fantastic way of putting out a content. If you are going about seeing different properties, venues, you're going to different locations, or you have identified a beautiful installation somewhere, or you're inspired by some floral artworks that you've somewhere, or you've seen a great painting somewhere. All one needs to do is make a good video out of it. Everyone's handy with their phones. Make a good video out of it, or make a few images or photos out of it, capture it beautifully, and then strategize it with professionals like yourselves, understanding when you need to put it out and in what tangent you need to put it out. Yeah. So I think my advice to new businesses and businesses who are not yet having an in-house team for their marketing is please take support of the professionals, because these professional companies are there for a reason. They understand the pulse of the market on a daily basis. They first try to understand your business, what you're trying to achieve, and then make a plan for you over the next few months to be able to understand how you will reach out to the right audience with the right content.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Rahul. I also wanted to ask you, when you spoke about, putting out content that sort of talks about the essence of the company, that talks about the day in, day out activities of the company. We belong to an industry that is super, super fearful of the plagiarism aspect in their work. They want to constantly, hide. I'm not going to say hide. I mean, that's quite a negative word, but they don't want to sort of talk about openly the kind of work that they're into, because if they fear someone else is going to copy their design, or even if it's the brand communication on social media, they feel that, okay, if I was to do something on this line, how do I sort of safeguard it so that no one else follows the same path? How does one really protect their data and sort of stand out from their competition in order to outshine the others, right? So my question to you again is that how do you deal with that aspect of plagiarism? How do you deal with this fearfulness people have, where they are constantly scared to put out any work they've done in the business? I mean, I'm not sure about the Emirates as much, because I feel there are only a few players that have done beautiful work. I mean, there are quite a few planners and designers there as well. Whereas India, we are saturated with the number of designers and the wedding planners we have. So how does one sort of distinct themselves from the competition, and how do you deal with this plagiarism issue on social media?
You see, the first important aspect of this is your mindset. It's very important as a business or a business owner to have an open mind towards this. If you step away from the picture and look at the larger picture, you need to understand that you yourself may have been inspired to put this work up when you've seen something else. This could be nature, it could be art, it could be an installation you may have seen. You must have traveled to some country and you seek inspiration from there. So nothing in today's world is original. Let me tell you that. Nothing in today's world is original. It is all inspired by somewhere. Now, when you put your works out there, you need to understand that while your competition may be looking at you, you also need to see that the wider audience could also be your next client. So if you look at the larger picture and you step away and see that your competition could be what, 50, 100, 200 people, but your larger audience is in millions. So if you weigh it out and see the ratio of your audience that could be a potential client, I would put my content out there still, eliminating the fact that there's 200 of my competitors looking at it. I don't care about that. There's a much larger audience that's looking at it that could be my client. That's one thing. Secondly, every time one thinks about whether my work will be copied or this is going to be replicated, think back on how these epic and legendary painters from the Renaissance era put out their paintings for people to view on public display. Now, if they had a fear of their paintings being copied, or if they have their fear of their art being copied, these things would never make it to the gallery. It would be there only for private viewing. What you need to understand is that your master stroke of your brush, so to say, when it comes to painting or when it comes to your product and service, is your own master stroke. So even if someone does try to replicate it, they will not be able to do what you've done because your master stroke is your own master stroke. So I think it's important to have a wider and more open mindset to understand that you've got more of a buying audience than your competitors who are watching your content. So put it out there and put it out there proudly.
Yeah, so I agree with this, and I think the distinct voice of a brand automatically is showcased on the handle if it's done consistently and with the right intention. So completely agree to what you were saying, and I think I've come across a lot of businesses where they have, we also do a lot of brand consultations, and I believe a lot of businesses they always give me a reference point of another similar business that they want to look like, and I'm like, I always tell them, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to take a path that's already been taken by somebody in your business? In order to outshine your competition or to have a unique identity, it's very important to have a distinct voice and a message that you can put across to have that relatability with your clients. So couldn't agree more, Rahul. Thank you so much for those things. Now, on a lighter note, I want to ask you, your team, you of course have a big team of digital content, and you of course consult and sort of discuss what you need to put out. For smaller businesses who want to do this on their own, are there any apps you suggest that they could use in order to have a better communication style, or it could be an app that eases the idea of social media for them? I know of a few, but I want to also understand from you first, and then I'll put in my words in the apps that I feel are super, super useful for businesses for using social media the right way. Anything
you see, what happens? Yeah, what happens here is that if I was to name a few apps, it kind of then still brings a certain amount of pressure to a new user. What I believe is shoot the content, pass it on to professionals if you've hired one, just like yourselves, or there are other social media marketing agencies where all they require for you is to shoot good content, pass it on to them so they can curate it in a manner and position and package it right. It's just like a product that you would want to probably make at home. When you make food at home, there's a certain level of convenience that you have. But the moment it goes into the stores or when it goes into a hotel, the packaging and product becomes different because the packaging and repositioning of the product happens. So I think to give ease and convenience to someone who's new at this, all I would recommend is shoot good content and pass it on to the professionals to repackage, reproduce. And if they have to curate it, edit it, and work on it, let them then bring back the final product to you. Because you will see that these kind of companies, which are professional companies that are purely social media marketing specialists, have a certain way of putting the same content out there because they understand what the audience wants to see.
Agreed. To that point, I would say that 100% with you when you say that the content has to be sort of handled by the professionals in order to get the right message across. I would add 2 cents to it by saying that for starters, I mean, of course, some people have the budget, some people don't have the budget. My advice to them always is that before you actually hire a consultant to handle this job, get a fair bit of understanding on how social media works. I think there are so many courses online that have come out which offers you a basic understanding and knowledge of social media working, which I think is so important as a business owner to have the knowledge of, even before you hire a consultant to handle it for you, because you should know what you're getting into and what you should expect from them. So, an academy, all these Udemy's, these guys have small courses of 6, 7, 8 hours just to sort of get a brief understanding of how social media works. So when you were to hire a consultant or a business or an expert in this domain to help you with social media content, you know exactly what to expect of them. Of course, you cannot learn the entire journey of social media through those 6 hours of learning, but it gives you a fair bit of understanding because it's not rocket science. We've been doing it for a while. It's just something that you can know exactly what to expect from the professional that you've hired. Another thing I feel, from what we discussed about how does one really seek content for their own handle. You, of course, spoke about the day in, day out activities for in order to get the clients to understand where you stand and what your business does. I also feel some people who can't do this could possibly be a part of forums and communities that allow you to have certain discussions on topics that are relevant to your field. And that gives you an idea of the content that you can put out. So communities like WedWise that we have on Facebook with 50,000 members, it's a great platform to just sort of exchange ideas and understand the topic around your field. And then that could be the content piece that you possibly use for your handle, positioning yourself as an expert in the domain. And I think these are little tips that I would say that would work beautifully for people in the field. Do you agree? I mean, Rahul,
absolutely. I think any form of information that's available out there, and if you've got a community of 50,000 followers, it's there for a reason. Someone has seen value in it, and that's how you build the community. So it's good to take all this inspiration and ideas and then eventually adapt that and see how your own brand is reaching out, and if there is a good reach to it, and if it's working, just continue doing the same. And if you have to realign yourself somewhere in the future, the good part about social media, of course, is that it is something that you can keep evolving with, and you can re-strategize and realign yourself whenever you want with minimal cost implications to it. And that's the beauty of it.
Absolutely. So now I'll get to a second half of our conversation, Rahul. The world is under a major pandemic crisis. And of course, everyone's trying their luck and putting their hard work to sort of maneuver or pivot in the business in order to stay relevant in this wedding industry. What I want to ask you, what do you think the future of weddings is? Not talking about how post-pandemic aspect, I'm talking about, do you see the Indian weddings really changing and turning into a Western influence as well, where they can go online, book a vendor? Do you see digital media as a platform for brides and grooms to interact with their vendors online? Like, I mean, we are having a Zoom call right now. Similarly, having meetings like this, which has started because of the pandemic. But do you see that as the future of weddings as well? And do you see bookings and, those big size tickets actually happening through the digital transfers as well? What is your take on this?
The one thing that I've told people in the last year or so when they ask me about the digital influence now is saying that when it comes to tools like what we are on right now, which is an online link where we are having a conversation, these kind of facilities and technologies can help facilitate, but they can never substitute. So help facilitate when you cannot be.
But only for Indian weddings, you're saying this. Only for Indian weddings, but because Western people follow this protocol quite a bit for over the years. Like,
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. When I say help facilitate, would be that when you want to get in touch with your vendors, you can have great calls without having to leave your homes. It's more time efficient as well, because you're using your technology to get in touch, get a lot of information that otherwise you would have probably had to spend a lot of time sitting face to face with. So from that perspective, it is brilliant. I think what has happened is that the situation that we were thrown into as humanity together has made us evolve in many ways, because people who are not users of technology have now become new users. So those are new consumers to technology in the last 1 year that we've seen. And now they've become very comfortable using these tools. So in terms of facilitation, most definitely the technology is going to continue, because I have myself seen a lot of meetings happen online without the need of having to go to someone's office or meet in person.
Yeah.
In terms of in terms of the marketing engines, in terms of portals that have got all this information for brides to be who are looking at getting married this year or next year, I think what has happened is that there's so much enrichment that has happened in terms of the vendors that are available, the information on new venues, information on new trends, information on new bridal wear and so forth, that a bride sitting at home can most definitely look into and gather their thoughts and put together their wish list and try to reach out to vendors. So that is also something that has grown over time. Not just because of the pandemic, but this is something that you as a visionary started many years ago. You saw that there would be a need when it comes to brides who are looking out to do their own wedding, may not have a planner in place, or maybe even have a planner in place, but today's bride wants to understand what she's paying her monies for and what value she's getting. So most definitely, portals like WedWise and the many other wedding information sites that there are has helped the bride today to be able to understand what it is that there is out there in terms of services and vendors, and at least put together a chart of what they want to do, out of which, yes, they can reach out to vendors and get the initial information going, get their prices, get their services, but then eventually they will most definitely need a planner, because unlike Western weddings where you've got a few hours in a day and your celebrations are over, ours still happen to be 3 night, 4 days long celebrations. It'll have a lot of guests. There's going to be a lot of things and elements that need to be put together like a clockwork. So then again, you will require professionals to come and plan and manage those for you. But the one thing that I've seen change in the last few years is where today our clients come to us who have already identified their vendors, probably even paid them their deposits, and they say, here, we hand this over to you, plan and manage this for us. And that has been made possible because the internet community has been able to connect the client to the service provider directly.
Thank you so much for that, Rahul. I think we've had such a in-depth conversation about social media and the beautiful use of this platform to grow your business. This brings us to the end of our conversation, and of course, we ended with a very interesting rapid fire round. And I will take you through a few questions, and I would want you to tell me first thing that comes to your mind. We do it with every guest of ours in order to get their understanding and their personality and their likings as a planner here out in the open. So shall we begin with the rapid fire?
Sure. Excited.
Super. So, okay, Rahul, my first question is your favorite wedding destination, and it cannot be the Emirates.
Favorite wedding destination? I would say Switzerland at this point in time.
Switzerland. Any reason why?
So that's the last trip I made before the pandemic had hit, and I was very keen on taking a new wedding there. So I think that's still on the top of my charts.
Super, super. And your current lockdown obsession?
Fitness always has been, and I've been pushing that even more.
Fabulous. Passion or skills? What do you need the most to survive this industry, according to you?
Passion first, for sure. It's with passion that you will go out and start what you do, and over time you will hone your skills and sharpen yourself.
What are the main characteristics of a good wedding planner?
You gotta be believing in relationships first. Business will always follow. Create relationships and become family with the client.
Fabulous. One skill you wish you had?
Teleport myself.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Rahul. This has been absolutely enriching and understanding of this digital media. Apart from me, it's fairly new, and it's rare to find someone who believes and and sort of really sees digital media as a future for wedding businesses also. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. And I'm sure our listeners will be very happy to have you back again discussing this more in detail. We will take a few questions from our listeners once this podcast is out. And in the meantime, I would love for you to keep, posting great things that you do on your handle, and keep telling us and educating us on how to best use the social media for our building business. So thank you so much, Rahul. It was fantastic to have you as a guest.
Thank you, Guinea. Thank you, WedWise, for having me.
And this brings us to the end of our podcast. Thank you so much, Rahul, for making the time. It was an absolute pleasure to have you as a guest. For any business that is active on social media and is extremely responsive to the user queries, get some sort of an additional credibility. This form of social proofing results in people feeling more inclined to select you as the business for their big day. So let's get cracking and take social media by storm. So thank you, Rahul, for emphasizing the importance of social media and how to take it to the next level. Thank you once again.